Good afternoon. Please take your seats. I call the meeting of the General Committee on Economic Affairs, Science, Technology and Environment to order. Colleagues, the agenda for this meeting has been distributed. Could I please invite you to adopt the agenda? Are there any objections? So the agenda is adopted. The committee has only 2 supplementary items left to consider. Therefore, it is likely that we will conclude our business this afternoon. Under our rules of procedure, the deadline for nominations for the election of committee officers is the start of our final meeting, which was scheduled to be 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Under Rule 36, the committee may amend this deadline. On the assumption that we will conclude our business this afternoon, I propose we amend the deadline for nominations to 3:30 p.m. today, and if any positions are contested, hold the elections at 4 p.m. today. If the committee agrees to this approach, the meeting due to take place tomorrow morning will be cancelled. Does the committee agree with this approach? Oh. So we'll start supplementary sheet if changed to... Sorry. So we now go on to the next supplementary item. Draft resolution on drinking water fostering cooperation to protect a scarce resource already adversely affected by climate change. I would now like to give the floor to the sponsor of this supplementary item, Mr. Farrugia from Malta. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Water is a fast-evolving global focal point, as it is the most precious resource that sustains life. A nation's economic prosperity depends on the availability and affordability of safe drinking water. It is a health index related to a nation's well-being and is a scarce world resource that is adversely affected by climate change. Climate change is the root cause of many water-related crises, such as droughts, scarcity or flooding, which negatively impacts on human security. These do not only lead to decreased biodiversity, but also lead to a forced displacement of people, a phenomenon we are increasingly experiencing. It is unfortunate that many signatories of the Paris Agreement on climate change, allow me for the pun, is being watered down by certain nations. Water has multiple uses, and I note that many are the nations here gathered who share transboundary water, which does not include river and lakes, but also groundwater and atmospheric water. This calls for a more robust cooperation between states to protect and manage surface and transit water, underground water, and coastal water from the negative impacts of contaminants, industrial, and human waste. Malta stands among those nations where its freshwater resource is extremely scarce, and thus is heavily dependent on reverse osmosis plants. Recently, as part of its water governance program, Malta has upgraded the treated sewage effluent discharged into the sea by a state-of-the-art polishing plants which change sewage into new water. This is highly polished water and is used for agriculture, industry, landscape, and replenishes the aquifers with a net zero impact on natural water cycle. This is one plausible solution that seeks a forward-looking approach, as all nations must diversify our source of water by treating, reusing, and recycling wastewater in order to optimize water management. It is imperative that green water-related technology and the decreased dependence on fossil fuel will be the very essence of each nation's agenda, as it is measures like these that productively addresses climate change. I urge participating states here gathered to address this pressing issue as part of the green economy strategy, as economic growth and environmental sustainability are inseparable. Such efforts will undoubtedly collectively yield a more secure world where each nation's political agenda is hallmarked by humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll start our debate. The speeches in this debate are limited to 5 minutes. I have 3 inscriptions. Sorry, Mr. Farrugia, I'll ask to put off your microphone, please.
Oh, so.
Thank you. And I have 3 inscriptions. Mr. Nabizada from Azerbaijan, I'll give you the floor to start the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, I want to say thanks to Mr. Farrugia for preparation of such needful resolution. The problem of water scarcity and equal access to water resources is one of the most important and pressing issues facing humanity. These issues are the focus of attention of European organizations, of course, and with the growing population of the planet, water becomes a scarce resource. There is an extreme lack of water in a number of regions and sometimes countries and continents. This applies to both water for farmland and drinking water. In this regard, already now the issue of access to water resources is becoming an environmental problem. Important is the fact of pollution of existent water resources. If in the first case it's a question of uniform access to water resources of all countries and peoples, in the second case it's a question of contamination of drinking water, larger bodies of water, seas, and the threat of complete disappearance of individual rivers and lakes. A huge number of countries are already experiencing a large water deficit, most of them in Africa and Asia, but according to forecasts of ecologists, by 2050, the shortage of drinking water will be observed already in European countries, such as Belgium, Great Britain, Turkey. Today, it's recognized that at present, no less than 40% of the world's population lives in areas experiencing medium or severe water shortages. It's assumed that by 2025, already 2/3 of the world population, more than 5 billion people, will face water shortage at this level. Thus, the problem of fresh water becomes global, covering over time more and more countries. The situation is aggravated also by the fact that the growing water deficit is everywhere accompanied by pollution of available water resources due to mass activity. The solutions of these issues is very urgent. Relevant are not only measures to overcome the water deficits that do not go beyond national economies, but also international aspect of the issue of access to water and pollution of available water potentials. That's why water has become the subject of discussions at all largest forums of the planet in recent years, especially at OSCE Parliament Assembly sessions. And I think that the main issues that must be hardly worked in future, it's water resources, free access to water resources, and water resources for agricultural needs. I think that it's also very important issues. With the increase in the world population and the global problem of food shortage, there's an acute shortage of water resources for drinking water and technical water for agricultural needs. With this in mind, it's strongly recommended from our side that OSCE participating countries refrain from creating artificial bans and barriers to free and unhindered access of all countries to available water resources and to strengthen the OEC coordinating activities in preventing pollution of existing water bodies. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Nabizad. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Gwen Moore from United States.
Thank you so much, and I want to join my colleagues in thanking the gentleman from Malta for this draft resolution, which is extremely important. I wanted to make this intervention because as a resident of the Great Lakes region of the United States, and the seat of my constituency is Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Lake Michigan, we have over 20% of the entire planet's fresh water source right in the region in which I live. Also, the father of the Worldwide Earth Day, Gaylord Nelson, former United States Senator and Governor, and founder of Earth Day in 1970, made us mindful of the important resource that our Earth is. And so I was programmed and trained and cultivated in the importance of preserving our environment. We have the historic Paris Accord was, of course, signed on Earth Day 2016 with 120 other countries. I believe that there are more than 200 million people annually who celebrate Earth Day. And so it is so important for us to continue the legacy of not only celebrating clean water, but to recognize, as an old African proverb notes, that water has no enemies. It has no enemies, which means that it's all of our responsibility to do whatever we can to preserve this source of health, recreation, and all of the elements that sustain us in life. And I thoroughly support this resolution, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Alain Ficini from Monaco.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. D'abord, je voudrais remercier M. Farrugia, notre collègue maltais, pour cette résolution à laquelle on ne peut qu'adhérer. Personnellement, je voulais apporter un élément concernant ce point additionnel. Dans le projet de résolution de la Commission générale des affaires économiques, de la science, de la technologie et de l'environnement, mon collègue belge ce matin a fait souvent référence à la COP21 et des engagements pris par les pays signataires. Au point 22 de l'exposé du projet de résolution du point additionnel, il est fait référence à une réunion sur l'eau organisée par les Nations Unies en marge de la COP21 qui a eu lieu à Paris en décembre 2015, au terme de laquelle il a été convenu que les changements climatiques se feront surtout sentir sur le cycle de l'eau. 175 pays sur les 195 présents à Paris ont signé cet accord, mais seuls 145 pays l'ont ratifié par le biais de leur Parlement. Ces 145 pays représentaient au passage 83% des émissions de gaz à effet de serre avant le récent retrait des États-Unis de cet accord qui, à lui seul, représentait en 2015 plus de 14% de ces émissions. Mon pays l'a ratifié en 2016 sous l'impulsion de notre souverain qui, comme vous le savez tous, est un ardent défenseur dans la lutte contre le changement climatique. La conclusion de mon intervention consistait à inviter les 32 pays qui ne l'ont pas encore ratifié, dont quelques-uns font partie de l'espace OSCE, à le faire dans les meilleurs délais afin que cet accord historique puisse prendre son plein et entier effet au profit de notre planète et par là même indirectement à cette ressource qui est fondamentale pour la vie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Now I move to give the floor to Mr. Jackson Lee from the United States.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is a very important session, and I'm delighted to be here, and most of all to congratulate the gentleman from Malta. I have just returned from Malta just a few weeks ago in the hospitable treatment of the government officials and meeting with other members from the European Union was extremely important in understanding Malta as well as other very important issues. Let me acknowledge Malta's positive role in the docking of the ship Sophia that was helping rescue refugees, and Malta was certainly hospitable in terms of that particular ship. But the issues that Malta is raising through the gentleman's resolution is crucial. And I would like to acknowledge 2 points that he has made, stressing that water is an essential life-sustaining World Heritage resource, which is indispensable for our survival and well-being, and as such, its protection and management is a shared responsibility between all states. Very crucial, recognizing that water is a global focal point between sustainable environment and sustainable development, and that a nation's economic prosperity also depends on the availability and affordability of safe drinking water. This ties very much in my belief that climate change and the agreement in Paris was crucial. As a member of the United States Congress, I can assure you that the majority of Americans believe in climate change in the Paris Agreement. We also believe in the $100 billion that was to be used in the South, including the continent of Africa and South Asia, among the countries Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and others. That is intertwined in climate change. Water is an essential life source. For those of us who've been to the refugee camps of years past or recently, I remember the Chad refugee camp, and I can tell you that the desperation of those refugees at the time was centered around the need for water. So these two are intertwined, and I believe that this particular amendment focuses on the importance of water security, influences the well-being of population, including their health, food security, and poverty level. Water is essential to energy production, economic development, and food security factors, which in turn have a great impact on clean water supplies. The United States is not untouched by water concerns. One of the most conspicuous and notorious was Flint, Michigan. Many of us as members of Congress went and saw firsthand the horrid results of dirty water. Sick adults, sick elderly, sick children, not able to recuperate quickly because of the devastating impact. Just imagine, as we have seen, multiplying that around the world. So I think it is important as we comment on water that it be closely associated with the value of recognizing climate change, of helping the developing nations, of putting forward the $100 billion. And might I say, in addition to elected persons and policy persons in the United States, I'm proud to say that coming from Houston, Texas, many local governments and states and large corporations believe in climate change, many in the energy industry in the United States. So I would want to support the gentleman's resolution, but more importantly, I want to set the record straight. The United States is not singularly designed or defined by one statement. It has a long history of understanding climate change, and it has a long history of knowing the importance of clean water. Facing that here in the United States, we look forward to working with the gentleman's resolution, and we also look forward, as I said, for the record, to evidence the millions of people in the United States who understand clean water, that it is an issue of security, and the question of the climate change and the responsibility that we all have to support that position and that philosophy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. We will now move to consider the amendments submitted to the supplementary item. 3 amendments have been tabled, and copies of the amendments have been made available. The correct version is entitled AS 17 SI 9 Amend E. In discussing amendments, I will call the proposer of the amendment or amendments first, and then we'll call any opponent or any opponent of the amendment, as we made during this morning. So I will ask sponsor of draft resolution, Mr. Farrugia, for his opinion on this debate. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I refer to the Russian proposal to include a new paragraph 2b, which states that it reaffirms that every state has and shall free exercise full permanent sovereignty over its natural resources. Well, my counter-arguments are these. Every state is sovereign, and each nation's natural resources fall under this right. I'm not contesting that. However, when it comes to transborder water, whether it is atmospheric, underground, or surface water, a nation's good water governance is essential, as this will indirectly affect neighboring nations and regions. We must recognize that water is a global focal point between sustainable environment and sustainable development, Clause 9. I also cite United Nations conventions and resolutions mentioned in clauses 12 to 17, which dictate on transborder cooperation. I am of the opinion that this amendment will annul the spirit of this resolution and the objectives sought to be reached in clauses 28 to 36 are obliterated by the sweeping statement. I'm hereby suggesting that this amendment is reworded as follows. Whilst reaffirming that every state has and shall freely exercise full permanent sovereignty over its natural resources, each state must recognize that transborder cooperation is a must to protect a scarce resource adversely affected by climate change. So, truly, I left the proposed sentence from the Russian colleague as is, but I have added a bit to it where I stated that each state must recognize that transborder cooperation is a must to protect a scarce resource adversely affected by climate change.
Thank you, Mr. Farrugia. Speeches on amendments are limited to 5 minutes, and we'll start with Ms. Get from the Russian Federation to propose Amendment 1. You have the floor, please. You have the floor.
Глубоко уважаемый председательствующий, глубоко уважаемые участники нашей вечерней сессии, я прежде всего хотел ответить предыдущему оратору, который дал, как мне кажется, вполне уместную поправку к данному пункту. Учитывая, что моя страна является страной, входящей в первую тройку по запасам чистой питьевой воды, тем не менее мы считаем, что наша поправка вполне уместная, потому что каждый кубический километр воды, приходящейся на одного жителя моей страны, еще не означает полного благополучия нашего государства в этом плане. Учитывая размеры нашей страны, у нас есть регионы, которые испытывают водный голод не хуже некоторых отдельных государств. К их числу я бы отнес прежде всего зауральские субъекты Российской Федерации, это Алтайский край, это Челябинскую область и так далее. То есть неравномерность распределения водных ресурсов для нас является внутристрановой и очень важной темой. Что касается трансграничной передачи, то мы тоже испытываем сегодня сегодня проблему с этим вопросом. Вы неоднократно в процессе даже нашей сессии затрагивали проблему Байкала, и проблема Байкала в субстантивном плане для нас является очень важной, потому что главный водный источник, наполняющий это уникальное природное явление, как Байкал, река Сунгари, она протекает через Китайскую Народную Республику, Монголию, и задержка воды, использование ее на цели хозяйствования в этих странах сегодня резко уменьшает водные пополнения этого уникального озера, и наши ученые ставят этот вопрос под определенное сомнение, потому что мы скоро можем лишиться вот того объема поступления воды, и снижение уровня Байкала для нас является очень серьезной проблемой. Кроме того, я бы хотел, возвращаясь к, собственно, телу основного нашей декларации, которую мы сегодня обсуждаем, напомнить о том, что достаточное количество питьевой воды еще не означает решение этой проблемы. Потому что мы четко с вами прослеживаем, что в зависимости от физико-химических свойств питьевой воды у нас имеется четкая связь с региональной заболеваемостью. Это мочекаменная болезнь, болезни сердечно-сосудистой системы, аллергические заболевания и так далее, и так далее. Поэтому не отметить этот пункт в нашей декларации было бы неверным. Нам нужны не только доступные объемы воды, исходя из физиологических потребностей жизнедеятельности человека, но еще и обеспечение того качества воды, которое не будет обуславливать региональную патологию тех людей, которые пользуются тем или иным источником воды. Поэтому, безусловно, подчеркиваю важность принятия этой декларации. Российская делегация просит учесть нашу поправку, и мы согласны с тем предложением, которое сделал предыдущий оратор. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you very much. I saw Ms. Doris Barnett, but just before Doris Barnett, I think you want to speak against this Amendment 1 because there's some confusion with the oral amendment. So the first we'll discuss the previous amendment, Amendment 1, and then I ask to Mr. Farrugia to explain the oral amendment to clarify for all. So Ms. Barnett, I'll give you the floor.
Ja, vielen Dank, Frau Vorsitzende. So wie der Änderungsantrag der russischen Kollegen jetzt steht, würde ich ihn nicht annehmen wollen. Es wurde selbst von den russischen Kollegen eben erklärt, wie wichtig es ist, dass der Zugang zu Wasser für alle immer möglich sein muss. Denn wir wissen ja, dass Wasser das wichtigste Lebensmittel überhaupt ist. Und ohne Wasser kann kein Mensch existieren. Man sagt zwar in der Pfalz, mit Wein kann man auch existieren, aber das stimmt nicht. Man braucht Wasser. Und natürlich hat er auch recht mit der Wasserverschmutzung, aber das ist jetzt nicht der Gegenstand. Das müsste ein eigener Antrag sein wegen der Wasserverschmutzung. Wir alle nehmen sowieso viel zu viel Medikamente und über die Medikamente, die wir nehmen, wird auch unser Wasser verschmutzt. Aber wie gesagt, das ist ein ganz anderes Thema. So wie unser Kollege aus Malta, Farrugia, es vorgeschlagen hat, die Änderung, so würde ich den Antrag der russischen Kollegen gerne annehmen, nämlich mit der entsprechenden Ergänzung, die er vorhin vorgetragen hat, was ja dann auch übereinstimmt mit dem nächsten Änderungsantrag wiederum der russischen Seite, die ja darauf hingewiesen haben, dass über ökologische Veränderungen es auch zu Wasserknappheit kommen kann. Da sieht man die Interdependenz. Und dass man auf der einen Seite zwar über sein Wasser verfügen will, aber auf der anderen Seite dann auch, wenn es Umweltschäden gibt, dann versucht, dann doch irgendwie an Wasser zu kommen. Also Leute, wir müssen uns im Klaren sein, wir brauchen alle Wasser. Deswegen ist Wasser nicht nur eine nationale Angelegenheit, sondern eine Angelegenheit der Menschheit schlechthin. Und insoweit bitte ich da ganz herzlich darum, die Ergänzung vom Kollegen Verrugia anzunehmen. Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barnett. I'll give the floor to Russian delegation again for a brief statement.
Я хотел бы надеяться, что трудности перевода не совсем правильно донесли то, что я сказал, до немецкой делегации. Вот. И говоря о влиянии на здоровье, я говорил в целом о той декларации, которую мы сегодня обсуждаем. И поскольку нам не было дано слово, хотя мы на этом настаивали, в предварительном обсуждении в общем, я об этой части говорил. Но что касается государства, имеет должную свободу осуществлять постоянный суверенитет над своими природными ресурсами, это действительно та тема, которая сегодня должна быть отмечена в нашей резолюции. Иначе, если следовать логике немецкой делегации, то любой может претендовать на нашу воду, не спрашивая нашего разрешения. И, наверное, этого неправильно. Ни одна страна, даже не имеющая достаточных водных ресурсов, с этим не согласится. И те политические последствия, которые могут быть вот с такой вольной трактовкой суверенитета государства над своими природными запасами, наверное, создадут очень резонансные попытки вмешаться во внутренний суверенитет государства. Я хотел бы насторожить наше сегодняшнее собрание высокое о таких рисках, которые содержатся в непринятии и отрицании суверенитета государства на свои природные ресурсы, коими является питьевая вода. Спасибо.
Thank you. Now I'll give the floor to the Italian delegation. You have the floor, please.
No, vorrei chiedere al proponente di riformulare la sua proposta di mediazione, perché io avevo inteso che fosse appunto una mediazione, una integrazione. Quindi resterebbe affermato il principio della sovranità, ma si aggiungerebbe una raccomandazione alla collaborazione transfrontaliera. Dunque mi sembrerebbe una soluzione che accoglie la sostanza dell'emendamento, ma insieme coerentemente con la natura di questo organismo, che non a caso si iscrive sotto la cifra cooperazione, OSCE vuol dire essenzialmente cooperazione, mi sembrerebbe che appunto da un lato è una buona mediazione, non contraddice l'emendamento, ma insieme auspica questa collaborazione transfrontaliera. Però chiederei che il relatore ci riformulasse esattamente la sua proposta.
Thank you very much. I think the points are very clear. We're not starting a new debate on this team, so I'll move to Mr. Farrugia again to comment on this amendment, and then we go to the vote. You have the floor, please.
Yes, we must be clear in the sense that to secure our world, we have to have good national governance when it comes to water, so that we sustain life. But more than that, we must cooperate amongst ourselves, all states here at OSCE, to ensure that this cooperation of mutual trust will bring out water security. So what I have proposed is to keep the Russian proposal, but onto it, I add another clause to the sentence, whereby in my proposition, I start off with, whilst reaffirming that every state has and shall freely exercise full permanent sovereignty over its natural resource, each state must recognize that transborder cooperation is a must to protect a scarce resource adversely affected by climate change. And therefore, the spirit of this resolution, especially when it comes to its objectives, as numbered from 28 to 36, will be given more added value. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I shall now put Amendment 1 to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards, please. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards.
Так мы голосуем?
Also welchen Antrag? Meinen Sie jetzt den Antrag, den russischen Antrag mit der Ergänzung des maltesischen Kollegen oder meinen Sie jetzt nur den russischen Antrag?
Yes.
So we'll take the oral amendment first. So we have an oral amendment for Mr. Farrugia to add the following wording for Amendment 1. Each state must recognize that transborder cooperation is a must to protect a scarce resource adversely affected by climate change. This is the replacement proposed by Mr. Farrugia, and now we are voting this text I quote. Is there any objection of this oral amendment being considered? So, those who are in favor of this oral amendment, raise your cards.
Не, подожди, ну что ты... А говорить надо, мы же...
Thank you. Those who are against, please raise your cards.
And abstentions.
There's any abstentions? So the oral amendment is adopted. So now Amendment 1 was amended. And we vote the Amendment 1 as amended now. So those who are in favor of the Amendment 1 amended, raise your cards, please. Thank you. Those who are against this amendment amended, raise your cards, please. Any abstentions? Thank you. The amendment
Госпожа
1
председатель,
amended.
российская делегация резервирует за собой право участия в окончательном редактировании письменного изложения этой поправки, потому что разность стилистическая, лингвистическая в переводе может быть исказить текст. Вот с таким условием мы, но в сути мы принимаем предложение делегации Мальты.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the Amendment 2. Just briefly, I'll give the floor to Ukrainian delegation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to reserve our right to review the wording which will be proposed by the Russian delegation. I had reservations against the amendment and the oral proposal, but I gave a chance to others to argue. I was not given a floor to suggest my arguments. Thus, I require that the clear wording will be presented to everybody who voted.
Thank you very much. Now I moved to...
С какого бодуна это будет делаться?
Sorry, we're not starting a debate. We must move to the Amendment 2, and I call Ms. Get from the Russian Federation to propose it, please. You have the floor.
Спасибо, уважаемые коллеги. Мы конкретизировали эту поправку с тем, чтобы те перечисления, которые идут в тексте, все-таки могли не учесть какие-то нюансы, являющиеся последствиями изменений климата. И предлагаем изложить пункт 32 в следующей редакции. Настоятельно призывает государства-участники принимать на национальном и международном уровнях достаточно эффективные меры для борьбы с изменением климата, которая в отдельных случаях в силу географических, экономических и других региональных, национальных и местных особенностей может привести к засухе, дефициту воды или наводнениям и, как результат, неблагоприятным образом сказаться на устойчивом развитии пострадавших регионов. Спасибо.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 2? So I'll give the floor to Mr. Farougias for your opinion.
Madam Chair, we have to call a spade a spade. We are here gathered not to play with political words. When issues determines one's fundamental right to live. It is a fact, supported by science, that climate change and scarcity of fresh water are interlinked with imminent environmental challenges. Lack of fresh water affects biodiversity and is linked to human displacement. Environmental unsustainability leads to economic unsustainability. No one can deny this, as nothing is infinite. So I propose that the suggested amendment will be rephrased so that we will not water down its significance. I therefore suggest that urges the participating states to take adequate and effective measures at national and international levels to address climate change, which in certain cases, due to specific geographic, economic, and other regional and national and local circumstances can lead to drought, water shortages, or flooding, and therefore negatively impact. Till here, it's all the same. But I have added this, and therefore negatively impact on the environment and hence on sustainable development in the affected area, as biodiversity is lost, and this may lead to displacement of people.
So, to clarify, you want to make another oral amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
In the sense that I'm keeping the text as proposed by my Russian colleagues, but what has been deleted, which is of significance in the original clause, I have edited differently so that the significance of the clause remains there. So truly, at the end of what the Russian colleague has suggested, I have included the word negative impact on environment And once she also mentioned that on sustainable development, this is affected, I added that as biodiversity is lost and may lead to displacement of people, because it is a fact, and not only it's a fact that we experience, but it's also approved also by science.
Thank you, Mr. Farrugia. Is there any objection to the oral amendment being considered? I'm just asking for the object. So if someone is objecting this oral
Коллеги,
amendment, just for it.
можно поблагодарить делегацию Мальты за такое творческое соавторство в российских поправках, но в данном случае нам представляется его уточнение избыточное. Действующая, предъявленная Высокому собранию поправка имеет и это в виду. И в данном случае с голоса создавать такие прецеденты, когда мы поправки начинаем принимать с голоса, это неуместно. И в данном случае смысл предложений и тревога мальтийской делегации здесь полностью учтена. Поэтому мы предлагаем воздержаться от этих уточнений. Спасибо.
This is not an objection, really. So, if I understand, it's not an objection. So
В данном случае имеется, как нам кажется, неуместное уточнение. И поэтому, учитывая, что мы все-таки это принимаем с голоса и возникают трудности с переводами и так далее, лучше от нее воздержаться и не принимать. Но мальтийской делегации мы объясним, что наша транскрипция, наше предложение имеет в виду и то, что его беспокоит. Поэтому давайте откажемся от экспериментов на вербальном уровне принимать такого рода ответственные документы. Мы возражаем.
So, the Russian delegation objects this oral amendment. That's it.
Российская делегация говорит, что она в данном случае не нужна. Она отражает обеспокоенность мальтийской делегации.
So, we don't consider this oral amendment because there's an objection. That's clear. So we turn back to the amendment 2 and we'll vote it, and I'll put the vote asking those who are in favor to raise the voting cards. Amendment 2.
I'm not clear about what you're proposing. What are you proposing when you say amendment 2? To which one?
I'm not considering your oral amendment,
Yes, that
as
I
you
understood.
explained just before, and I'm considering the previous one, the amendment 2.
Amendment to what? 32. The amendment 32 by the Russian delegation? Yes.
Yes. The amendment
Thank you.
32.
Thank you.
So we'll repeat this vote because of the confusion. We are voting the amendment 2 proposed by the Russian delegation. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those who are against? Thank you. There's any abstentions? So the amendment 2 is defeated.
А с каким счетом?
Количество голосов скажите, пожалуйста.
So to clarify, we had 18 in favor and 23 against and 3 abstentions. So the amendment 2 is defeated. Now I call...
Будьте добры, госпожа председатель, в будущем все-таки озвучивать количество голосов за и против.
Может, надо пересчитать.
Okay. We'll repeat this votation. Those who are in favor of Amendment 2, raise your cards and stay the arm raised, please. A bit more. You can keep just a bit more the arms raised. Seventeen. Those who are against, thank you. Those who are against. $23 against. Any abstentions? 3 abstentions. So the amendment is defeated again. Now I call Mr. Mahou from Belgium to propose Amendment 3.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je vais présenter l'amendement de M. Mahou, si vous me l'autorisez. Je voulais tout d'abord saluer l'initiative prise par nos collègues maltais sur un thème ô combien important, nous le voyons tous les jours. Le droit à l'eau est en effet primordial pour l'ensemble de la population et malheureusement on voit que cet accès n'est pas toujours possible. Quand on voit ce qui se passe par exemple dans la Corne de l'Afrique ou au Sud-Soudan où des milliers de morts, où on dénombre des milliers de morts de faim ou de soif. Et donc soutenons fermement cette résolution et nous voulions la renforcer en invitant tous les États participants à inscrire dans leur constitution nationale le droit à l'eau en tant que l'un des droits humains fondamentaux, ce qui permettra de conférer à ce droit une base solide et créera de ce fait un cadre contraignant. C'est donc l'objectif de l'amendement que la Belgique propose pour compléter et renforcer le texte de cette résolution. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 3? So, Mr. Farrugia, you have the floor.
Though the fundamental protection of right to life normally connotates one's right to his or her well-being, in this universal concept, one can no doubt include any matter that supports life. Water is life, and the right of water is a basic right, but not necessarily to be included directly in a constitution. I cite an example. The fundamental right of freedom of movement. This does not mean that accessible transport is a fundamental right. It is a basic right, which is included in the concept of movement. The same when it comes to water, because the fundamental right is the right to life, and that incorporates in it the basic right of water. The intention of my Belgian colleague is most appreciated. However, his legal interpretation may turn out to be cumbersome legislation, not only just for water, for any other right.
Thank you very much. I don't know if there's more interventions on this point. So I shall put the amendment 3 to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those who are against. Thank you. There's any abstentions? Thank you. The amendment is defeated. That concludes the considerations of amendments. Thank you. I propose that we now formally move to a vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favour of adopting the draft resolution as amended, please raise your voting cards. Thank you very much. Those who are against, there's any abstentions? So the draft resolution as amended is adopted. Now we move on to our final item of business, draft resolution on observation of new voting technologies. I would now like to give the floor to the sponsor of this supplementary item, Ms. Soder from Sweden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank the co-sponsors of my supplementary item. The election observation missions are often described as one of the most important tasks that OSCE undertakes. The importance of these missions can certainly not be underestimated when it comes to safeguarding democracy. However, we must make sure that the election observers are able to do their job in a satisfactory manner also in the future. New voting technologies are already in use in a number of states, and the prevalence of new voting technologies will most likely only increase. Here we face a challenge where our observation missions risk falling behind. We risk being unprepared for the observation missions and thusly severely undermining the ability of the observers. This is why the supplementary item on the observation of new voting technologies is the utmost importance. By encouraging the discussion and development of ways to observe elections that take place with new voting technologies, we enable ourselves to remain effective. We have an excellent opportunity to be at the forefront of this development, and I strongly suggest that we seize it. Madam Chair, colleague parliamentarians, I urge the committee to take on board this supplementary item and remain committed to the observation missions and their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we'll starting our debate on this item. I have two inscriptions. I'll give now the floor to Mr. Moore, and the interventions are limited to 5 minutes. Ms. Moore from Canada. Sorry.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Des provinces, États et pays de partout dans le monde, y compris au Canada, en Europe, se tournent de plus en plus vers des technologies numériques pour les scrutins. Néanmoins, la sécurité et l'intégrité demeurent au cœur des préoccupations. Au Canada, le vote en ligne a déjà été utilisé dans des élections municipales à Markham et Peterborough, en Ontario, à Halifax, à Truro et au Cap-Breton, en Nouvelle-Écosse. Mais ni les provinces ni le gouvernement fédéral en ont fait l'essai jusqu'à maintenant. Le gouvernement du Canada a étudié la question, mais n'a jamais pris de mesures pour intégrer le vote électronique ou le vote en ligne dans les élections fédérales. En 2016, le comité spécial sur la réforme électorale de la Chambre des communes a étudié des options de vote en ligne au Canada et, en fin de compte, les a déconseillées. Dans le rapport, le comité a recommandé que le vote en ligne ne soit pas mis en œuvre pour l'instant, mais Élections Canada explore l'utilisation d'outils électroniques qui permettraient d'améliorer l'accessibilité du vote tout en assurant l'intégrité de l'entièreté du processus électoral. L'avantage non négligeable du vote en ligne et du vote électronique est de faciliter le vote et de la rendre plus accessible pour de nombreux électeurs, ce qui augmenterait potentiellement le taux de participation. De plus, le vote en ligne ainsi que les formes de vote par kiosque électronique faciliteraient le vote et le rendraient plus accessible pour les électeurs aveugles ou à mobilité réduite. Toutefois, il ne faut pas oublier qu'il y a de nombreux risques associés au vote en ligne et au vote électronique. Tout d'abord, il y a le problème de soucis techniques à propos de la sécurité, de la transparence, de la fiabilité du vote en ligne, du vote électronique. Et il faut aussi toujours garder en tête la protection de la confidentialité et de l'intégrité du vote dans l'examen des nouvelles technologies. Par ailleurs, si le vote en ligne est mis en œuvre à grande échelle, l'accessibilité au vote pourrait en fait être limitée pour les électeurs qui n'ont pas accès à Internet ou aux technologies nécessaires pour procéder au vote en ligne. De plus, le vote en personne est une importante tradition démocratique. Le vote en personne comporte une valeur cérémoniale ou collective que le vote en ligne ne pourra jamais remplacer tout à fait. Comme vous le savez, l'OSCE joue un rôle important dans l'observation des élections dans le monde. Ainsi, il est important de discuter des nouvelles technologies, de se tenir au fait des effets, des risques qui y sont associés et de leur adoption dans les pays représentés ici. Il est important également de réfléchir à comment l'OSCE peut participer à l'observation d'élections si un vote électronique est utilisé. Il faut penser aussi aux compétences particulières que des potentiels observateurs devraient avoir afin d'être réellement efficaces en tant qu'observateurs. Il en va de la crédibilité de la mission d'observation des élections de l'OSCE et il faudrait penser à peut-être accompagner les observateurs traditionnels d'élections de gens qui ont les compétences techniques pour s'assurer de la fiabilité du vote électronique. En tant que parlementaires, on n'est pas nécessairement des spécialistes en informatique, donc il nous pourrait être plus dur pour nous d'observer le processus d'élection lorsqu'un vote en ligne serait utilisé, d'attester de la fiabilité et des résultats obtenus. Donc, je remercie l'Assemblée de prendre en considération les points que j'ai apportés dans mon discours. Merci.
Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Onishenko from Russian delegation.
Глубоко уважаемый президиум, глубоко уважаемые участники нашего комитета. Безусловно, данная резолюция как никогда уместна, потому что процесс использования новых технологий при голосовании является очень актуальной для достоверности, для легитимности, а самое главное для того, чтобы противоборствующие стороны в процессе выборов не ставили под сомнение результаты выборов. Наша страна сделала большой шаг в этом направлении, о чем свидетельствуют прошедшие в сентябре прошлого года выборы Нижней палаты нашего парламента, когда было избрано 450 депутатов, половина из которых шли по одномандатным округам. В округах шла очень непростая борьба между кандидатами на эти посты депутатов, но тем не менее ни один из результатов выборов не был оспорен. Это разительно отличается от предыдущих выборов в Государственную Думу, которые были в предыдущем политическом цикле, когда ставились под сомнение именно технологии голосования и результаты, соответственно, выборов. Поэтому использование современных технологий для нашей страны еще является и принципиальной позицией, потому что наша страна располагается в 11-часовых поясах, и когда те, кто начал голосовать на Дальнем Востоке, уже ложатся спать, а в Европе у нас только заканчиваются выборы. Поэтому мы поддержим данную резолюцию. Она, как я уже сказал, уместна, корректна, но резервируем за собой право, и наша делегация предлагает 2 из 3 поправок, принять окончательное решение по результатам рассмотрения тех предложений, которые мы делаем. Еще раз спасибо за своевременную подготовку данного документа.
Thank you very much. I don't have more inscriptions, so we'll now move to consider the amendments submitted to the supplementary item. 3 amendments have been tabled and copies of the amendments have been made available. The correct version is entitled AS 17 SI 10 Amend E. In discussing amendments, I will call the proposer of the amendments or amendments first, and then we'll call any opponent of the amendment and be made just as we made before. So the speeches on amendments will be limited also in 5 minutes. I call now Mr. Sanchez from Spain to propose Amendment 1. I'll give you the floor. Is anybody from Spain delegation that can speak in favor of Mr. Sanchez? So I suggest, Mr. Sodders, you have comments on this amendment proposed by the Spain delegation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in favor of the amendment, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll put the Amendment 1 to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you very much. Those who are against, please raise your voting cards. There's any abstentions? The Amendment 1 is adopted. So I call Mr. Mamedov from Russian Federation to propose Amendment 2.
Уважаемые коллеги, уважаемые председательствующие, мы предлагаем в этот, без сомнения, важный и нужный пункт добавить следующий текст, отмечая важность использования передового опыта осуществления онлайн-мониторинга, проведения голосования и подсчета его результатов. То есть то, о чем мы говорили, максимально привлекать в выборный процесс современной технологии. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 2? What is Mr. Sodders' opinion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in favor of the amendment, but it has to be changed in the language of the sentence. It's not so good English. So if it will be changed, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I shall now put the Amendment 2 to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Those who are against, please raise your cards. Is there any abstentions? Thank you. Is there any abstentions? The amendment 2 is adopted. I call now Mr. Turov to propose the amendment 3. You have the floor, please.
Спасибо, уважаемый президиум, уважаемые коллеги. В абзаце, который начинается у нас в условиях проведения выборов с использованием новых технологий голосования, наша делегация предлагает добавить и разработки проекта методологических указаний наблюдателями ОБСЕ для утверждения государственными участниками. Для чего это необходимо? Мы знаем, что методология такая разработана, но она требует, безусловно, доработки и последующего утверждениями каждой из делегаций, представленных в ОБСЕ. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. What is, does anyone wish to speak against the amendment 3? So what is Mr. Soder's opinion? Oh, we have
Yes,
Norway delegation. You have the floor, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think I will vote against that amendment. I think the text as it is a good one. When we have to look at the OSCE observer methodology, I think that is something that we always have looked at, that has to be evolving and not something that we should put to a consideration and a political decision on the approval of the participating states. So I will vote for the text as it is.
Thank you very much. What is Mr. Soder's opinion, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not in favor of this amendment. I mean, if a task force is being created and aimed to further investigate the role OSCE observers have to play, it is implicit that the task force will elaborate methodology. I think it's unnecessary to implement this amendment, so I reject it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I shall now put the amendment 3 to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Those who are against? Thank you. There's any abstentions? Thank you. The amendment is defeated. That concludes the consideration of amendments. Thank you. I propose that we now formally move to a vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favor of adopting the draft resolution as amended, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Those who are against, please raise your cards also. There's any abstentions? So the draft resolution as amended is adopted. Thank you very much. That concludes the business for this committee. As none of the posts of committee officers are contested, I shall move directly to announcing the results. For uncontested posts, as the position of the chair is not contested, I declare that the nominee for that position is elected by acclamation, myself, Nilza Senna from Portugal. Thank you very much. Likewise, as the position of vice chair is not contested, I declare that the nominee for that position, Mr. Artur Gerasimov, is elected by acclamation. Likewise, as the position of the rapporteur is not contested, I declare that the nominee for that position, Ms. Sofia Katsarava from Georgia, is elected by acclamation. Congratulations. I think we finished the works, the business for today. Thank you for your work, hard work. I think we must respect all each other. We are all colleagues. We are all following the same goals of cooperation and security in Europe. And I think we can achieve the goal to make some interventions in a polite way, not hurting anyone here inside. Thank you and good work.